Hi, this is JJ at CCBC. In this video, we're going to do a general overview of Photoshop. Major topics that we'll cover are where online resources are available, as well as the general interface of Photoshop. For this video, I'm using Photoshop Creative Suite version 6 on a Mac. So before we get into Photoshop, let's take a look at where you can get a free trial version of the software. The website I'm going to is just adobe.com/downloads.html. If you do a Google search of free trial Adobe software, then you'll find their download page. So here's their download page. It lists all of the different software that they offer. The Creative Cloud is like the package. It used to be called the Creative Suite. Now they've moved to the cloud. That's their package software. So the cloud includes just about everything you see here. You can do the cloud, or you can do individual pieces of software. Now at the time of making this video, the trial time is, I believe, 30 days. So consider that when you do download these trials. Take a look at your assignments and your courses and see how many weeks you're going to need to be using this software, and don't download something at the very beginning of the semester if you're not going to need it until the last 2 or 3 weeks of the semester, depending on the schedule of your course. I'm just going to show you, if you were to download Photoshop, since that's what this lecture is, you would click on the try link below the product. It'll take you to this page where in the upper corner here they've got a big download trial button. If I click this button, they want me to log in using their Adobe ID, so I would register with Adobe first and then go to the downloads page, and then you can put your ID in here and log in and download your trial version for 30 days. So that's how you can get a free version of Photoshop, or pretty much any Adobe software for other videos, very quickly and easily. So let's take a look at Photoshop. Here I've already opened up Photoshop. What I'm going to do is go through the menu bar at the top and then show you some of the general interface elements, and that'll be it for this video. So just like the other software, you have the software menu for closing the software, so quitting out of Photoshop. You can set up preferences. In this video, I will show you one preference you may want to consider, and that's units and rulers. By default, Photoshop is set up to work in inches. Okay, so this would be the default setting, which is pretty nice, but I'm not designing images for print on a piece of paper. I want them to be on a computer screen. So for me, the rulers that I want to use should measure in pixels. So these are display measurements for a computer screen as opposed to inches on a piece of paper. That's one preference you may want to change when you're working with Photoshop. It's entirely up to you. So I'm going to hit OK. Next is our file menu. Pretty typical file menu: new files, open files, closing, saving as different versions, exporting, etc. I'm going to create a new file so that the other menu options open up, because if you don't have a file open, a lot of options are grayed out. So I'll click New. This is their menu for creating a new file. You can put a name in here. I'm not going to bother. You can use presets. Now again, I'm designing for web. If you were doing mobile devices or something else, you would use different presets. If you're designing for print, here's some of the print or even photo options. But again, I'm designing for web. That seems to be the default, so I'm going to stick with that. I can change the size. 800 by 600 is big enough. I can go much bigger if I need to. There's some other defaults. I believe these are advertising default sizes, so if you're going to create an advertisement for a web page, these are some pretty standard sizes. And then you can go in and set other properties. I'm not going to go over those in this video. I'm just going to hit OK, and now I've got an image to work with. So I go through my edit menu. Here I have a lot of options: cut, copy, paste, undo, redo, etc. Pretty standard edit menu. My image menu is unique to Photoshop because of all the things you can do with an image. So there's several modes. You can go to grayscale, red, green, blue for computer-based graphics, CMYK for print-based graphics, and so on. You can make lots of different adjustments. This is a very complex menu. I'm not going to go into detail here. The other options here that are important: image size, so when we go to resize images, here's where you can do that, or canvas size, which basically makes the canvas bigger but doesn't resize the image that's on the canvas, and we'll look at that in another video. There's a layer menu for managing your layers. I'm going to do a whole video on layers, so I'm not going to get into this menu in detail here. There's a type menu for working with type or text. There's a selection menu. I'm going to do a whole nother video on selecting areas of an image in Photoshop, and here's how you can modify those selections, is using the select menu. The filter menu is a collection of filters or a series of actions that have been stored, and they're called a filter. So it creates certain effects. So you can do like a lens flare for your camera, or you can blur something, or you can add distortion or noise to an image, and that's all done using filters. That, again, that's very complex. I'll have to do another video for filters. 3D is a new feature in the last, I believe the last version of Photoshop 3D was added. It's way beyond the scope of this course, so I'm not going to cover it here. The view menu, really this is good for zooming. So zooming in and out. If you want to use snapping, you want to use rulers, those are available here as well. But mostly it's the zoom in, zoom out, fit the image on the screen, or return to the actual pixel size of the image. That's very useful here. And here you can see the hotkeys for all of those options. And these are things you're going to, zooming is something you do a lot when you're working with images. The window menu, there's lots of different panels or windows within Photoshop that you can work with. You'll notice there's check marks next to each of the open windows, so layers has a check mark here. You'll notice here's our layers panel already open. Here's adjustments. Adjustments has a check mark here. So if you wanted to work with a specific window and it's not currently open in your interface, you can open it here. If you had more than one document open, they would all be listed down here. They're also listed up here as a series of tabs. Currently I only have one document open. And the last menu, the help menu, if you don't find these videos very helpful, this is another alternative. You can type in search terms or use some of these other resources available to try to get more help working with Photoshop. So that's the basic menus. The options bar is the first interface element I want to show you, and that's this bar right along the top of the screen. It's an interesting bar in that whatever tool I have selected from the toolbar on the left side here will give me different options up here. So if I click, let's see, like the paintbrush tool, it gives me paintbrush options. So for example, what brush type I want to work with. How much opacity, what kind of flow, sort of like an airbrushing effect. If I'm working with the eraser tool, again, what kind of brush for the eraser, what kind of erasing do I want to erase to the history, etc. So different tools will have different options available up here. If I use the text tool, it gives me a bunch of text options. So this option bar will change based on whatever tool you currently have selected. Next is the toolbar. I already started clicking through here. I'll do different videos for each of the tools that we're going to use in this course. There's a lot of tools here. We're not going to have time to cover all of them, but some of them are very useful tools, and so I'll do a different video for each of those. Down here is their color palette manager. So here's foreground and background color. If you click on one, it opens up the color picker window, which allows you lots of different ways to work with color. So here you have hues, here you have tints, and you've got shades. You can type in hexadecimal codes, you can type in the RGB code, the CMYK, hue, saturation, etc. So these are all ways to manage your colors. Some other panels over on the right here. Here's the info panel, so it shows my position on the screen. So here I am on the stage or your workspace. It gives you the X, Y coordinates as well as the red, green, blue value of whatever pixel my cursor is over top of. Next are your color and swatch tabs. So swatches are just a series of preset colors. You can go to the color tab here and there's all that same information to allow you to manage the foreground and background color, just like we had over here. I'm not going to do adjustments and styles in this video, but those palettes are open by default. And last is layers. And again, I'm going to do a whole video on working with layers in Photoshop, so I'm not going to go into layers in great detail here. So that's the general interface of Photoshop. So you know where things are positioned, where to access different elements of the interface. I'll do more videos to do specific elements, specific tools, and specific panels within Photoshop that are useful for our course. I hope you learned something. See you in the next video.